Bradford Clark Freeman, the last surviving member of Easy Company's band of brothers, dies at 97. Right. So it says Bradford Clark Freeman, believed to be the last surviving original member of the historic World War II Parachute Infantry Regiment of the U.S. Army, known as Easy Company, died on Sunday in Columbus, Mississippi. He was 97. Yeah, so we covered Band of Brothers a whole lot. Every episode we talked about it, and so I got an email from Molly Dangerous last week, and just kind of with that article in it, letting me know that he died. So that's a long ass life. You know what I mean?
97, man. He lived, man. You lived 97. Shit.
Yeah, that's a long ass life. But I felt like, and I'm sure Molly felt the same way. I felt like that we'd be remiss not to, kind of shout him out and, prayers and stuff to his family, stuff like that.
Yep.
Even though 97 is, like 97 is a long time, but, like I know, it don't matter how old, somebody gets. The family always want to just keep them, make sure that they're around.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever like that.
Most definitely. Definitely.
But what's up, man? We got a guest, right? We got a guest. Who do we have the pleasure of talking to today?
Hi, my name is David Chad Underwood. Mm-hmm. I am an EN1 in the United States Navy. Been in for 15 years.
Yeah, so this is fun, right? Let's so this whole episode, right, is going to be about transparency, right? Right. So EN1 hit me up, right? It's been a couple times, right, from when we started this podcast, right? It's like, what's up? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's go, So he hit me up, like I was in SCA. He hit me up. He was like, "Hey, what's up, man? When we gonna do this?" I'm like, "Yo, we got it. We gonna put something together. It's gonna work out." This week, he hit me up again. Like, "What's up?" I'm like, "All right, let's go. Let's do it." Right. So, the other day though, I think it was just today. He was like, "Yo, what we talking about?" You didn't hit me up.
Ready though, right?
You didn't hit me up 3 times. What you mean? So, to be transparent again, we have nothing to talk about at all. So, that should be good. I got no notes. I got one thing I want to go over, an email from one of our listeners. But I got no notes, nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to recover. I got a slight afternoon hangover or whatever like that. So I'm trying to recover from that. We're going to have some fun.
Are you gonna read that email or what's going on?
You want me to read the email right now? Okay. All right. I'm gonna read the email. I wasn't trying to come in hot off the email, bro. But let's go. All right. So this is the email. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's long. You know what I mean?
Oh no.
It's long. But I mean, I don't think I do too many bad jobs at, reading on here. Maybe every now and then. What is going on, Chiefs? I was wondering if you could help me get some closure on something. I know you guys talked about talking to a detailer, and it got me thinking about the end of my career, right? Quick bio. I'm a 10-year Navy veteran. He was an FC2, right? This issue is not something that I will dwell on, as I was in a highly technical field and I was able to transfer it properly into a civilian career with minimal issues. But my intentions originally were to stay in the Navy. To make a long story as short as possible, I was having a tough time on the boat, and I took that into consideration when I re-enlisted for 4 years instead of 6 to max out my SRB, so I could recharge and reset on shore duty. I was upheld on the boat for a few more months immediately after re-enlisting. Transferred to my 3-year shore duty orders, and it says ComSec Fleet. At year 2, I was selected for IA to Gitmo with the promise of getting that year back for shore duty, right? He got air quotes on promise, right? With the promise of getting that year back for shore duty. I returned to shore duty, and it is time to re-enlist and pick new orders. Talk to the detailer. He gave me needs of the Navy. He gave me needs of the Navy talk without getting that year back. Needed me in Japan, carrier strike duty orders, right? It says, I reiterate to my detailer, an FCC who he knew as a FC1 on his ship, about the year of IA and the EAOS. He came back with needs of the Navy. He said, I rogered up and said, no thanks, but I will keep calling back every month until my EAOS. Every month, I got the same Japan orders, needs of the Navy. And every month, I said, no, thank you. On my last look, I gave the detailer my last no, thank you, and informed him in my chain of my decision to separate from the Navy. It says, come and behold, I received the email from the command in Japan 2 months before I was scheduled to separate, asking where I was at. They were expecting me. I explained to them that I never agreed to the orders and that I would separate. He said, in my head, I battled this detailer for orders. I said no to what he offered, and I feel like he cut me those orders to get it off his plate for the time being, while the FC behind me got his pick of orders. He said, I have a couple questions for you guys. I know there are a lot of moving parts to this, especially with the IA deployment, but is this a common practice for detailers? Giving me those orders after I stated my intentions. He says, if not, did the detailer cut those orders to me so he wouldn't have to deal with it for a few more months? I understand the needs of the Navy, and I would have accepted those orders had I not felt comfortable with separating. But my perspective on the Navy changed after Cuba, and I felt more committed with staying in the Navy. I also have a problem with people not doing their job. At this point, the Navy had given me a lot of training, a top secret clearance. He said I was a Tomahawker, and a ton of money, SRB. And I was currently at a staff command. Is there something I could have done on my end to get past this Japan issue? But more importantly, should I have brought into light what was going on, what I was going through with the detailer? I mean, that's a yes. I am a child of the 90s from California, and the no snitching ethos was still a part of me. I enjoy your podcast and the perspective you have on things. Like I said, this does not keep me up at night, but at times I still ask what if. I'm just curious about your thoughts, if this would make for a good discussion. Cool. If you guys want to give me some feedback offline, that would be great. Thanks again, and I hope you guys continue putting out some great content. So when I first read this email, I said, yo, we're going to get a detailer on. You know, I had my own personal thoughts, of course. I was like, hey, we're going to get a detailer on and we're going to, chop it up with the detailer. But why not chop it up with an engineman first class about about this shit? You know what I'm saying?
I tell you what, man, like, for real though, man, that was a lot going on right there in that email, right? First off, him being promised something, right? Like, who promised him? Because normally you get those IAs, they come from somewhere else. May not even come from a detailer, because a lot of times what they do, they'll come to you and then you got to pick between your command on who's going to go and blah, blah, blah. But somebody got to take these orders. But where is that small print that said, we're going to give this back to you? If you got that ticket right there on somebody promising it and it's in black and white,
yeah,
you can, as a chain of command, you can use that, So that's one thing. The snitching thing I heard there, hey, snitching on somebody doing their job is a whole nother ball game, man.
Yeah, it ain't snitching. It ain't snitching if you snitching on a detailer, bro.
Yeah, exactly, man. So, man, I would have brought that shit to light so quick, right? So quick, man, on what was going on. And also, man, with that being said, though, I don't know the circumstances. I don't know what he was going through and none of that stuff. But I most definitely, as a chief, I would have been talked to the detailer and find out what's the chief's side of this as a detailer on why, we can't do something differently, try to, keep this sailor in the Navy, blah, 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 all this stuff. And let him know the background of it too. You know what I mean? That'd been like some of my steps. But at the same time, man, like I don't know until we talk to a detailer. So I would like to know, though, do they just send those orders out anyway? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I had a guy that was retiring and he said he was retiring and they still sent him orders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They sent him orders anyway to go to Japan when he was freaking retiring. I already had his letter, you know what I'm saying, up to retire, and they sent them orders anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if that's a thing or not, but hey, detail us. Holla at us, man. Let us know what's going on. We've been trying to get a detail on here for a hot minute, man. I know it's one detail out there.
I'm interested on EN1s. Like you can't close out, the answer and by reaching out.
I didn't close it out. I didn't close it out. No. I wasn't closing it out. I was giving my part of it. My point was, hey, any detailers out there?
Hey, Ian, what? Did you feel like he was closing out the question? Did that feel like
I ain't closing?
Not really. I mean, he left it pretty open.
Nah.
The call
left
to
it pretty
action to the detailers is the end of the question. It's like, let's move on after we tell the detailers we need.
Nah, so I mean, I've never been a detailer personally, but I think that there was probably a lot of missing information with that whole situation too. Because I mean, he never said anything about talking to his chain of command. Did he talk to his chief? Did he talk to admin? Did he talk to anybody? I mean, we didn't get any of that information at all. So I begin to think that this guy probably didn't have a whole lot of experience in the Navy. Probably did one ship, one shore tour, and then that was it. So, I mean, he didn't really have the longevity experience that, like somebody like one of us would have, that you guys are close, if not already at 20, I'm at 15. So, I mean, we've been around a little bit to understand that if more than likely he did not reach out to the correct people, he's probably not going to get an answer that he's going to find viable for use of information. So I think, to be completely honest, I think he partially only failed himself, and it's only because he failed himself. It's only because he didn't really know what he didn't know. So there's no way to understand something you don't know if you don't know the information or have that information readily available to you. So I honestly think that should be the first thing that needs to be asked is, did he talk to the right people in his chain of command to get the answers that he was looking for? If every time he reached out to the detailer, he was getting the same response and the same, shotgun orders to forward deploy Japan, who has he talked to? Who has he asked the questions to? That would be the first thing that I would want to know.
So, reading this email right now versus the first time I read this email, I realized something, that him and the detailer had a relationship as well. He knew the detailer from his first command.
Oh, wow.
He might have that's what the email said, right? It said he knew the detailer.
He knew him as an FC1.
Yeah. So he might have been giving that detailer too much grace. He might have been feeling like that's why and I think that plays a part into the no snitching ethos that he brought up and a bunch of other shit.
Yeah, okay.
That
makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now it makes sense.
So I think he felt like he was protecting, that detailer. But it's been many a times, soon as I get the email from the detailer, all right, let me print this out. I'm taking this to somebody right now. I'm walking down the P-way with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's launch plans. Like, let's go. You know what I mean? So, but I think he gave the detailer a whole lot of grace. Some of the onus.
So,
what up?
No, that's it, man. So that covers everything I just said. I would apologize for because that little bit of information right there just changed my whole thought process. That's probably why he didn't talk to his chain of command. That's probably why he didn't do a whole lot of things that he would have did. Is because he knew he had a relationship with the detailer.
That makes sense.
That makes sense now. Now it makes sense.
Yeah, I think he.
But at the same time, though, it's your career though. Mm-hmm. And you said you wanted to stay Navy. If you want to stay Navy, you got to do things that's going to help you stay Navy. Because at the end of the day, seemed like that detailer turned his back on you and say you go to Japan.
Yeah.
Period. So
his decision there was fickle too, for a little bit, because a little bit was like, yo, I want to get out. It was like almost like I want to get out, but then this experience, made me stay. So it wasn't as solidified as, for instance, like somebody who came day one and knew that, it was a few things that would make him shift or whatever like that. So I think all of that had a point to kind of had a play in, that decision-making process. But EN1, what I do know about you is that you went through, the last thing that happened when we were on a ship together was you were going through a process that had to do with, was the detailer involved in your process as well? When you was trying to do
it was a pretty lengthy process actually, because
all right, so let's start, just for the listener's sake, what was that? What was the process?
So the process is called cross-decking or like a one-for-one swap. I mean, there's so many different, terminologies that you could use. But essentially it was like a cross-deck. I was trying to cross-deck to get on the ship that I'm on now because it was coming back to San Diego. And I, at the time, had a daughter on the way. So I wanted to come back home to my daughter, essentially. And I even was willing to commit an extra year at sea just to be able to get on the ship that I'm on now. And it was a 9-month process. And that was from the very beginning. And it was during the height of COVID, too. So, I mean, there was a whole lot of people.
Where were you? Where were you trying not to be before you
in Yokosuka, Japan?
Okay. I'm listening.
Yeah. So it actually it had to go through Desron, and it also had to go through the PERS, which essentially is the detailers. And because the guys at PERS, the detailers, dropped the ball, the guys at Desron, who our CMC on my last ship, was reaching out to the higher ups at Desron saying, hey, these two sailors submitted these packages well before the deadline, and your organization, whoever was involved, dropped the ball. And I want to make sure that this sailor gets what he applied for because he qualifies for it. And the other sailor taking his spot here also qualifies for it. There's no reason for this to not happen. So the CMC on my last ship was extremely helpful and extremely, on the ball on trying to make that work for me. And he did a magnificent job of it.
Yeah, CMC was dope. But that was crazy though, because we was coming off a COVID deployment, and we were doing we were moving, right? We was moving from San Diego to Japan, right?
Yes.
And what made this time weird, because I feel like by this time, right, the ship we had done a lot, like as a crew.
Yeah.
And by this time, coming off after the COVID deployment, this after you left, Damon. But as we going and moving to Japan, everybody was a little bit more like fucked up than they were, before, this whole thing happened, and with their real regular life, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like for me, that was the miscarriage. EN1 was dealing with trying to get over to the ship, and it was a lot of, so it was almost like everybody had, I might curse a lot this episode, but it was almost like everybody had like their own bullshit that that they was dealing with. So as much as dealing with somebody else with whatever they got going on, you got shit too. And it was like everybody knew that each person had shit. I think to name one more, like GSC1, for instance, it wasn't bad stuff, but he had just had a baby that he really didn't see yet too much. You know what I mean? So like all of us had like something going on. I don't think we had a GSCC. We had a T8E GSCC who had to be there. And just our top snipe was contemplating retirement. It was just so much going on just with the crew. And like we had done all these things, and now it's like, all right, this is kind of like, and I remember this sail around or whatever was kind of like the last hurdle before the ship was able to pull in and take a breather. I think do like a mini yard period and then do like another like mini deployment kind of thing or whatever like that. So it was just a crazy time. And I know that was like frustrating for you at the time, wasn't it, EN1?
That's the understatement of the year, to be completely honest. I was told on 2 different occasions that, hey, sorry, it's not going to happen. This was told to me by the CMC. The same CMC that made it happen came to me twice on 2 separate occasions about 2 months apart and was like, no, this is not going to happen. Sorry, I tried everything. I talked to everybody I could. And then magically, we're about to pull in back to Yokosuka, Japan from our second deployment in a matter of, I think it was like 18 or 19 months. We spent 19 out of 24 months underway. And it was just before we were pulling in, 2 weeks. And he was like, hey, I just got off the computer, just talked to the PSCS over there at Desron, and they're going to be cutting your orders right now for you to go on to the ship that I'm on now. And it was literally a matter of days where I was told by CMC, hey, you're going, it's happening, got my orders, stood EDO the day after we pulled in from deployment, and then I literally turned over EDO and left to the ship that I'm on now the very next day. So it was so quick, it almost didn't feel real. And then when I checked into my ship now, like everybody was like, hey, what's up? Are you replacement for other EN1? I'm like, yeah. we just swapped places. That's all we did. He went there, I go here. That's how that works.
EN1. Hey, David, you ever saw EN1 mad?
Like all the time.
All right, yeah, okay. I just want to make sure, right? I just want to make make sure.
Hey, I just want to
EN1
clear
was
the
ready
air.
to whoop the dude. EN1 was ready to whoop the other EN1 ass. Like the dude.
I just want to make myself really clear, though. Like that was 9 months that they were messing with my livelihood. I got a little girl on the way, and I'm trying to get back to her. Like it was a difference of a year and 4 months if I would have stayed over there on that ship compared to if I got to the ship that I'm on now and came back to San Diego. So that would have been, I wouldn't be able to potentially, I wouldn't be able to see my daughter until she was almost a year old.
Yeah. Hey, so just so everybody know, man, these are the things that happens all the time, though.
All the time.
You see him once, but he won't be able to see his daughter for a year or whatever the case may be. That shit happens all the time in the Navy, right?
All the time.
And another thing is, on top of that, is the fact that this swap thing he talking about. Hey, EN1, the percentage of getting that done is probably about 20 freaking percent, if not lower than that, of that actually happening. Yeah. Because people always either change their minds or somebody like one guy better than the other, and we're not gonna do this, and all type of stuff goes on with that whole situation that 9 times out of 10 it just doesn't happen for the sailor. So to me, hearing EN1 saying it happened for him, I'm like, that shit is great. Regardless, I know it took 9 months, but just for it happening,
it was.
I'm telling you, you are. It's like
I was lucky,
freaking good, man.
Oh yeah, I was lucky, and there was only 2 other people on the ship that were able to actually get that cross deck fulfilled for them. And I'm not going to name names or nothing, but to my knowledge, there was at least 20 people on board that ship that applied for it. So 3 out of 20, that's a pretty low percentage.
Yeah, but if that cross deck, as much as EN1 was lucky, if that cross deck didn't happen, you know what I'm saying? I feel like the other EN1 was lucky too, because EN1 had some plans, man.
So hold on. So the EN1 was coming regardless?
Oh no. What I mean, it was a 1-for-1.
Oh, when he got to San Diego,
our EN1 was going regardless to wherever the other EN1 was at. When we pull in, I'm gonna go up on that ship. I'm gonna find them. You know what I'm saying? I remember, man, we had some good times, man. We definitely had some.
Oh, that's times. Right, because the Curtis Will was still over there at the time.
Yeah, they were in port twice when we pulled in.
Shit, that's now I'm tracking now. Yeah.
So just to touch on, what I was saying a bit ago, that there were 2 separate occasions where I was told it's not going to happen. The first one is the one that we're talking about now. And it's when the other EN1 that I was supposed to swap with hit me up on Facebook and even sent a formal email to the command, all that stuff, saying, I don't think that, I want to continue on with this process. I don't know if I want to do this. Let me take some time to think about it, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And let me talk to my family and I'll get back to you guys. And I was like, wait, hold up, man. Like, this has been like 5 months that you're all like, yeah, let's do this. We're going to make this happen. And now all of a sudden you got your pants around your ankles, man. Like, don't give me that bullshit. Yeah. Like,
didn't he stop
I'm not about that life,
for a little bit? Didn't he stop responding for a little bit?
Yeah, for like a solid month. For a solid month, he didn't talk to me.
I'm finna pass the word for you to meet me on the pier, bro. It's time to meet me on the pier, man. We need to talk about this, man.
I can't imagine being on Facebook Messenger like, hey, man, this the 30th message I sent you, bro. Where you at, man?
It's really funny. Man. I don't have my phone on me right now, but I could pull the messages up and be like, yo, look at the dates right here. Like, there's a whole month gap between when he said something and when, I said all this and then he responded. So yeah, that first time, it was him. It was the other EN1 that he didn't want to do it. I guess later on I came to find out that it was an actual paperwork issue with his family. And he was trying to get his family from from their origin country to Japan and get them there legally. So that's what he was dealing with, other than, again, like, Damo, you were just saying, we all deal with our own stuff. So he was dealing with his own stuff at the same time, trying to make it happen, trying to swap.
Yeah. So and that happens too, man. We never know both sides of it, man. You know what I'm saying? You never know. You all be all pissed and mad, but you never know the other side, until you know the other side.
Yeah, you're right.
So what CMC did, right? how did that like affect your perception of CMC?
Oh, I
Like,
liked the
what-
guy from day one when he
Yeah.
checked in, but I was always like, I looked up to him as a really good leader, and he's one of those people that doesn't just have somebody's best interest in mind. He has a vested interest in the betterment of a life for a sailor. And if he actually has the ability to help said sailor, he's going to go out of his way to do that. And he really, really proved that that was the case with me. So, I mean, I have absolutely nothing bad to say about that man. Only good.
Yeah, that dude was like tapping into people like spirits, bro. Like, you know,
Yeah, he
people,
really was.
I had sellers coming up to me like, hey, you know, Chief, man, I started, you know, this when I was a chief. It's like, hey, Chief, I started writing poetry again. You know, I talked to CMC and he just made me believe in myself again. I've overcome this fear. I've overcome. And I'm like, damn, how many?
Oh my God.
I'm like, how many people is CMC talking to? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I talked
He
to
was
him.
on the deck place,
Yeah,
baby.
and
Let's go.
I asked him, like, well, you know, when I used to talk to him a lot too, because I actually admired him as well. I'm like, hey, dude, you got like a clone or something? Is it two of you? Like, how are you doing all this? Like, you know, what's up? And then he gave me he dropped some jewels on me, man. A little bit like my last week on board or whatever. He dropped a couple jewels on me that like really made sense. But the reason why I asked you that is because I wanted to know, like, when it comes to a leader, right? So it's different levels of leadership, right? And I kind of want to go through that. And we, you know, we just talk about like your perception of it all, right? So let's start with like a LPO. What's your perception of like a good LPO?
Ooh. So I've been at LPO now at, I think, 3 different commands. I've been a first class for an obnoxious amount of time. I think like 9.5 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a good LPO needs to have a good moral ground. And the reason why I say that first is because you got to remember that as the LPO, you are the threshold between everybody enlisted lower side and upper enlisted and officers. So the first thing that comes to mind as that person in that position, the threshold between the two worlds, you first have to realize that all of your sailors, all of these sailors up and down the chain of command, are people before they are sailors. So if you have that good moral ground and you're able to deal with individuals individually, not treat everybody the exact same, if you recognize that that is important, especially to junior kids nowadays, I think that's the first piece of the recipe that you need for a good LPO.
All right. So before we transition to chief, right? Before we get there, right, naturally, right, how important is the relationship? Now I'm talking still to you as LPO, right? How important is the relationship between the LPO and the chief?
Crucial. So as the LPO and the chief, you are the 2 of the 3 parts of the divisional triad. So knowing that, you have to have a good working relationship and a good understanding of the differences and the similarities of your leadership styles and your, I would say, weaknesses and strengths and how they match up together. Because, well, let's face it, division officers are not really much of that divisional triad that I just spoke of. They're usually just a first or second tour divo, just kind of trying to mosey on by, do their job to the best of their ability, and at the very same time, trying not to screw up and piss off their department head. So it's really up to the chief and the LPO. And as long as they have a good working relationship and they understand their strengths and weaknesses and how they compare together, that will be the glue that holds the division together, essentially.
Yeah, and I think that a good LPO and a good chief are able to empower, you know, a divo and
Yes,
make them,
absolutely.
a big part of that, you know, because you do have divos that could just run off and, you know, have to focus on their quals, or you know what I'm saying. But a good
Right.
LPO, good chief, man, they can really empower that divo. Like in some of the divisions that you had, that you were in, y'all had empowered divos. Y'all had some divos that
Yes,
was
we
like
did.
super duper, like actually empowered to be divos. I think in the the divisions that I had later on the ship, we had divos that you knew was like, all right, this is the divo for, E division.
For sure.
But you do still have divos that, all right, like they trying to get, this qual, that qual. Now, have you had a situation where you didn't mesh with, where you as a LPO didn't mesh with LCPO?
Ooh. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Right. Looking back, I can say that I've had majority of the chiefs that I've had have been really good. Chief, senior chief, doesn't matter. I've had a lot of good chiefs, and I think it would be remiss for me not to say something along the lines of I was blessed in that sense. But don't get it twisted. I've had a bad chief or two, and it wasn't just because that they were a bad leader or that the chief and I didn't work well together. It was the fact that at the time, it just wasn't a good relationship between me and that chief personally because of a past issue. So this actually happened on my second ship, and it was my first chief on my second ship. And it was pretty obvious that this guy was very mistreated in high school, middle school, probably made fun of his entire life growing up because he had a chip on his shoulder. He always wanted to fuck with people hard. And it wasn't just fucking with people that were around on the ship and, like his colleagues and stuff. No, he fucked with his junior sailors in the division. Like he would sneakily, he would be a bastard about it and say like, oh, yeah, you guys get this done. You guys be able to go home early today. And then, our first classes are like, okay, cool. We knocked all this out. We're going to go talk to chief or whatever and try to get you guys out of here. And then chief come up with another work list at like 1700.
So he was like a villain. He was like an evil
I wouldn't
villain.
say he was a villain. I honestly think that
let me defend him. Let me defend him a little bit.
Yeah, please do, Damon. Please do.
Oh no, I'm not obtuse to that.
Yeah, now. If it happens all the time, it's a different story. But
that's what I'm saying.
Sometimes, it does. It does happen sometimes.
A double tap work list person, like that double tap joint, like it's 1500.
Always double tapping me.
Yeah. Hey, so don't forget, guys. Like I spent about a year as the chief of my division on my last ship, and I was there for like chief meetings, khaki meetings, all sorts of stuff. I was playing the actual role of an LCPO. Just I wasn't allowed in the chief's mess. But I mean, I was treated like one of the khaki when we would do all of our khaki, like SSOQ boards or khaki call, whatever. I was treated as such in that respect. But at the same time, I know I wasn't privy to certain information. But I do recognize that like certain times, certain situations will occur where a department head or a divo or something will come out with a work list later on in the day. And there's just nothing that a chief or a first class or anybody else can do because that tasking comes from way above them as well. I'm not obtuse to that. I know that happens.
What was the effect that having that relationship with that chief at that time, though? What effect did that have on the division as a whole? The bad relationship.
Everybody's morale was just terrible. And it wasn't just me that had the bad relationship with that chief. It was all of the first classes in the division. It was all of the second classes in the division, all the thirds, all the firemen. They did not like him. And it wasn't just because they didn't like him as a chief. They didn't like him as a person because he was a shitty human being. And like I said, I think that's because of his past. Either he was fucked with super hardcore when he was growing up, or he grew up an only child and he was told that he's special. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But at the same time, it takes a certain kind of malice in a person to act like that to all the people that he associates with in a professional setting.
So what was the resolve? How did this get fixed?
He picked up officer and then he left the command. So we got a new chief. 2 new chiefs, actually.
Isn't that crazy, right? I knew that was the answer, right? You know how I knew that was the answer? Because that's the normal answer in the Navy when it comes to like problems that got to do with people, personalities, and shit like that. the normal fix to most of these problems is the people leave.
Yep.
Like that's the normal fix. I've seen it where leaders are waiting for like a subordinate, right? And I'm using those words like because I have to in this explanation, right?
Right.
But like a leader is waiting for a subordinate to leave to like fix their division or something like that. And I've seen it where junior people are waiting for senior people to leave to pretty much do the same thing. Like, yo, it's no real fix. We just know this person got a PRD soon. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta ride it out.
Leaving soon. He leaving soon.
And unfortunately, that is the answer for most of these occasions. Because I mean, usually when two people don't mesh, especially in the upper enlisted chain of command, so like between a first class and a chief, or hell, even a chief and a DLCPO, that's usually the answer. Because when you discover that you don't like somebody either professionally or you don't like somebody personally and professionally, there's no getting away from working with that person as long as they are there. And there's really, unfortunately, no other answer other than, well, you gotta wait till that person leaves until shit's gonna get better.
Yeah, because some things ain't criminal. You know what I mean? Like some like we see it happen like often where like you might get it happened on our last ship actually. Like you might get a division that really just don't like their chief. Like not one of the members of the division like their chief. And they can report it to whoever. But it's like he's not being racist. He's not really creating a toxic. Well, they might have felt like it was a toxic work environment, but that recently got added to the semio instruction, like very recently, like toxic work environment. That wasn't there before. But it might not be anything that's real triggering or alarming. So it's just like you really just don't mesh with the personalities. Like it's some people that's just like anti-social or whatever, or they got like some social awkwardness or whatever. And they might be in a leadership position at this point. And some people can't they don't really understand how to work with them. They don't really know how to tap into like personalities and stuff like that. So it's like, damn, it's like, all right, we really just, and this, for some people, but they like, we really just waiting for this person to leave. Don't nobody even know how to talk to this person. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. What say you to that, Damon? It looked like you know.
Yeah, I mean, my point is I never get into like liking somebody or not liking them and all that unless they can control how I move. If you could control how I move, like, and I'm saying this because I'm a damage control man. I normally got my own little pot of the other type deal, and I kind of can move how I want to move. But if I was working with somebody that say their personality was stopping me from doing my job, then it's an issue. But if they're not really stopping me from doing my job or anything like that, I don't really care about personalities and stuff. Like, when it comes to the LPO and the chief, everybody want a great relationship, but it's not going to be like that all the time, right? But on top of that though, long as they doing their job, that's my responsibility to make sure everybody's doing their job. We ain't got to be homies. We ain't got to be like, high-fiving in the P way, but everybody has a job to do, because when one person don't do their job, it's going to be bad for the other person, because somebody got to do it. Facts. Either the LPO if the chief don't do their job, the LPO gonna have to step up and the Divo gonna do more. All these people gonna do more. If the LPO don't do his job, the chief gotta do more. Then maybe the works in the soup gotta do more. So it's our job is to make sure everyone is doing their job first. Then behind that, you got a good relationship. It makes it even, now we're gonna kick ass together and and move on, but don't take the personalities and how people mesh and how people do this for like, say, okay, I'm not going to give my LPO he could be like the bad attitude and all this, but I'm not going to take away from his accomplishments. I'm not going to take away from the shit he gets done, all the shit I don't have to do because my LPO taking care of that shit.
You saying like you saying you as a LCPO wouldn't take away from
me as an LCPO, regardless of the LPO, we didn't mesh. If he's doing his job, he's doing his job.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I don't want people to think, well, I don't like him personally, so he's not a EP sailor.
Yeah, I as an LCPO, I can't even see myself thinking like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like him. But also, like, you a baby boomer, right, Damon? You a baby boomer?
Yeah.
You're not a baby boomer, man.
I am a baby boomer.
You a baby boomer for real? You're not no baby boomer, dog. You're not no baby boomer. But listen, though, all I was gonna say is this: like, it's different, like generations, right? And I feel like this like millennials, like my generation and Generation Z, and I'm a little off of that as far as the millennial thing, but nowadays, like they have to, like, people gotta like people, man. like that's like a real thing, bro. Like
Yeah.
it's not as cut and dry as, all right. I'm watching it now, like, in different places, but it's like it's literally like, yo, I don't like my LCPO, so I don't want to work for my LCPO. It's like, well, what's your, what's going on? I'm gonna be honest. I just don't like my LCPO. It's like, yo, okay. I remember the days where it didn't matter how I felt about somebody, as far as like you saying, like on a personal level. I'm working, I mean, number one, I'm working for me as well as, whoever else, but I'm working so I could do a great job, especially as a junior seller. I was working to be a great performer. Like, it didn't matter how the fuck I felt about whoever I was working for. You know what I'm saying? It never even got to that place, but it's different nowadays, bro. Like, if people don't like somebody, it's going to be a real hard, time in that division. I mean, that's what I think. I don't know how you feel about that one, EN1.
I think that's pretty true for most, but I wouldn't say all. There's always going to be differences, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for instance, the division that I have now, I would like to think that all of them like my leadership style, but I guarantee that there's at least one or two of them that don't.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, I don't get any less work out of them if they do not like me. You know what I mean? Like, they're actually doing their job and doing what they're told. So I currently can't really speak to that intelligently because I don't really have anybody like that. But I have in the past just had somebody that didn't want to work for me just because they thought that I was too strict on them or whatever the case may be, or that I'm just a blatant asshole or whatever the case was.
Yeah, I believe you gotta just assess. I believe that you gotta move in fairness, right? You do what you do. Make sure it's fair, right? Assess what you're doing from time to time. Because when you start kind of just devoting yourself to like caring about how everybody feels about what you're doing, you're never gonna get it right. Like,
you're never gonna get it right.
Yeah, it's like a book about, like, McDonald's, for instance, when somebody was, oh yeah, McDonald's is good, but they should do breakfast. McDonald's is like, all right, we're gonna do breakfast. It's like, oh yeah, y'all doing breakfast, y'all should do salads. All right, we're gonna do salads. Y'all doing this, y'all should do this. And then it's like, damn, McDonald's is like losing money now compared to when they was like literally only doing burgers with cheese on them or not. Like, you want cheese or not? Motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Now you're trying to service everybody. Everybody is not, it don't matter what your intentions are, everybody is not gonna like you, man. You know what I mean? And that's how I feel about that. What about you, Damon?
Most definitely, man. You can't get caught up in all that stuff, man. But I was sitting here thinking real quick, and if for the listeners that don't know, I'm a damage controlman, which means I run, most of the time I run this DCPO program. And if you don't know, EN1 at one point in time was my LPO of ER09.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of intel and things like that behind EN1. But I got this one story that I want to tell, man, because it's kind of funny to me. It wasn't funny to EN1 at the time, but it was so fucking funny to me, man. I had to laugh about it real quick. Let me get this out. So one day, man, like, this ain't got nothing to do with the DCPO thing, but it had something to do with we was running this drill one time, man. Yeah, where you at, man? And look, this story, this is not to this story is about the person, not necessarily EN1.
This story was coming.
All right, let's talk
to the
about
bottom of this. Let's get to the bottom of
but no, I don't want to get too crazy, but I just want to get on how it happened and how it happened, right? So I'm not gonna get too many details. Listen to me. Listen to what I'm saying, right? So we down in the space, man. Like, we were in this drill, and we got I think it was EAP or somebody on board.
Yeah,
on board the ship.
Yeah, it was EAP.
So EAP. So the guy comes down. There's this captain came down, and it was this. I'm saying this story because how crazy it was to me on how it happened. right? So this captain is sitting way in the corner over there. Way in the corner. Look, he's watching everything. So he comes up to EN1. He said, man, EN1, I think he asked him, was you pointing at something like that or whatever the case may be? Was you pointing with a hot spot or whatever it was? But that wasn't the story that's what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is what he said.
Oh, shit.
This motherfucker, EN1, hey, let me know if I'm lying when I say this. He told EN1 that I will kick your fucking ass. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck? And he was standing, I'm right there. And I'm literally came at his face, his eyes was all big and shit, dude. He was serious as fuck. And the dude, afterwards, though, I know the situation wasn't funny. You know what I mean? It's a captain. You know what I mean? It wasn't funny.
Full bird, right?
But to hear this dude, a full bird, down there say, I will kick your fucking ass, was like, that shit was new to me, man. And I had EN1, because I remember like talking about this once before, like when we was on the ship. And I look at people, I don't know if they believe me when I said this, man, because me and EN1 was like right there. Everybody else kind of sprayed out into space. But he had kind of called me over there, right, EN1? Did he like call me over there or whatever?
Yeah, so the way that it happened is the captain came up to me and said, stop doing that. And I looked at him and I said, what are you talking about? And I didn't recognize it at the time, but the way that I was standing, the way that I had my hands positioned, okay. Like, I look back at it and I'm like, nah, I shouldn't have done that shit. But at the same time, like, he didn't even give me any time to, like, explain anything. He just said, what are you doing? Stop doing that. You know what? Just go stand over there. And that's when he came to you and he was just like, hey, like, he's over there pointing out hot spots or whatever. Get him the fuck out of here. I should kick his fucking ass. He didn't ever say that in front of me.
Okay. Yeah. You were standing to the side. Yeah. But it was crazy though, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
Crazy to me, man. How that happened, man. Like I was like, oh my goodness, man. I was like, EN1, get up out of here, man.
Now, look, he was a baby boomer, bro.
For sure.
He was a baby boomer.
Definitely was a baby boomer.
Like that generation, they ready to fight over a hot spot.
Yeah, man.
They ready to
I should kick his ass. I was like, what the fuck? That's one of the stories, man, I had to get out here, man, because that shit was so like wow for me. Not necessarily wild, because people always, get into it and blah, blah, blah. But for a guy at that magnitude, though, you know what I'm saying? It was like, what the hell?
So the $1 million question is, though, what would you have done as the senior chief in that space if that full bird captain really would have tried? I ain't asking EN1 what he would have done, because I don't want to hear that.
If he would have said you kick my ass?
No, if he would have tried to really actually put hand, because he was like 6'7". He was like 65 years old, and he was like 6'7", bro.
He was about 81 though, man. He was about 81. Player. I don't know if he's gonna be doing too much.
He was like Magneto. He was like Magneto age and height.
Man, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. He had like one more yell, and he probably would have passed out in the space.
He was like Ian McClellan's Magneto age and height, right? But like, what was he like? If he would have tried something, let's say he because he's older, so his whole arm would have went back for the punch, right? He wasn't just lining it up. Like, so if he would have done this and came back and tried to do something, right? What was you gonna do as a senior chief down there?
I don't know, man.
They don't even know. You see, he don't know. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know.
You see what I'm saying? It's been 3 years. It's been 3 years, man. He can't think of how he
has it really been that long?
Yeah, it's been.
I don't know. I'm just exaggerating. Though.
It's probably about 3 years, though, man. I've been on the ship for like almost 2.
It's probably been 3 years.
So hold up. Let's take a trip back in time. So I was one of the first LPOs of ER09 when we were on that ship. So that was probably around 2017-18 time frame.
Probably, yeah.
So it was like 4 years. Yeah, like 4 at least.
Yeah. I think this happened in 19. This happened in like 19.
That sounds right.
Yeah, this happened in 19. So it's actually been like 3 years.
Probably the beginning to middle of 19, because that was our actual, that was our LOA, right?
Yeah.
Or that was for EOC. It was one of the two.
Nah, I think it was LOA.
Yo, but look, Damon, you in a space. You in a space.
Yeah.
A full bird captain that's there to inspect your ship tries to swing on not only one of your sellers, right? It's not just one of your sellers, it's one of your engineers and is one of your damage control training team members.
Yeah.
What you gonna do?
I know a guy like myself, man, that's probably what I would have did, man. I probably would have let him got off on EN1, right? Hit him with a 2-piece, right?
Damn.
And then what I would have did was broke it up so EN1 couldn't get him back, right? So I broke it up, EN1 couldn't get him back. And then I probably would have talked about it for like 3 or 4 years. EN1. I've been like, hey, we would have did a reunion on the ship, and I would have got up there and said, EN1, you remember when that old ass captain hit you with that 2-piece?
You know, them 4 birds be having pistols and shit. Be having pistols,
man. But no, man, I don't think it would have got that far, man. I probably would say, "Hold, player, what you doing, man? Calm down," or whatever. It probably wouldn't have went. I hope it wouldn't have went that far anyway.
Yeah, it's like, all right, yeah, let's maintain, professionalism or whatever like that. Yeah, that was crazy. How was that DCPO shit though? How was that all together? EN1. I know EN1 got some stories too.
Oof. So hold up. Let me.
They were gonna try to control the dad.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
So what I was gonna say is, like I said, I was one of the first LPOs. I took over from who is now a DCC. He was a DC1 at the time, but I was the one that kind of started the whole program up. Like I actually went over to another ship that was a Flight 2 Alpha, the same style of ship as what we were on. And I got their entire layout, every single line item that was on their sked. Now, mind you, this is not just a couple hundred maintenance items. This is thousands on thousands of maintenance items, including ventilation closures, CO2 bottles, AFFF bottles, you name it. Like we were dealing with everything on the ship. So what I was doing is comparing our ship's stuff and where it was located to this other ship's loadout from sked. And almost everything matched up. So I loaded it up in that fashion. And if stuff came down the pipeline that needed to be changed administratively, I would have done that as it came along, which was a very frequent thing that we were doing. However, what I did not take into account for is when I loaded everything up into sked, I didn't do the offsets correctly, meaning the duration of time in between when a piece of when a piece of gear has a maintenance item and another maintenance item that is supposed to follow along with it, and then so on and so forth, how far the periodicities were in between. I didn't correct that from the get-go. So it uploaded all this maintenance all at once. And all of the guys that I had working for me at the time were not extremely familiar with all of the checks. We were not extremely familiar with all of the different equipment that had multiple maintenance items on. And so we started going through DCI or DCMI, whatever you call it. And then we were basically told at one time, correct me if I'm wrong, but no maintenance is to be done. DCMI is the number one and only focus until it is complete, no maintenance. And a couple of weeks leading up into that, we were falling behind on maintenance anyway. So this was like a whole month, if not a little bit more, that my guys were not doing a copious amount of maintenance. That we actually had to just put our hands down and say, okay, we're helping with this inspection. There's nothing we can really do except for do maintenance on duty days, on our off time. So we ended up on the tail end of this, I went on leave. So this was like December timeframe of whatever year. And when I came back, I had a piece of paper with my name on it waiting for me, talking about 483 PMS alerts, and the XO wasn't having that. He was a little bit upset about that. And I remember that day extremely well. That was awesome.
Hold on. So I didn't bring this up. I wasn't going to bring that up here, but since you bring it up.
It's funny.
So let me tell you some mistakes that was made right there, though. Right. So one, me and DCC at the time, I think it was Braden, right? I think it was Braden. DCC at the time.
Yet, but
we took different leave days, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever the case may be. So,
no, it was HTC. That's who it was.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. That's what. So we took different leave days. So some crazy way, me and EN1 take the same leave period, right? So me and him actually come back to, me and him come back the same time. But I thought, but me and EN1 already talked about that. I think we had a plan.
We had
right.
Had.
The plan was in. The plan was in. You right had. Look, the plan was there. So when we get back, hey, them son good. Hey, whoever out there listening right now, if you was a Euro 9 during that time, and you know what we talking about right now, you could hit us up. So we gets back and we got 400 and some checks. And I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, we all like, we like, what the? It's crazy right now. Cause I don't know. Like, I'm like, we done lost them. These checks are lost. And we can't go back and do this or whatever. But the lesson learned is one of the biggest things is I learned from that is, man, is that the plan was in place, but I don't think we had like a single person there for one to say, okay, yeah, we told all these guys to do these checks, but then, whatever the case, something happened and it just didn't happen, whatever. But what I did learn from that is, man, when EN1 brought up earlier about the periodicities and stuff, man, when you first put that stuff in place, dude, it was happening to us so much because we was doing a pre-com. And when people was entering in that stuff, it wasn't just ER09. When people was entering that shit and they wasn't putting those new dates in and stuff, man, and all that shit started popping at the same time, boy, it was crazy, man. I remember signing off on like checks, man, was like 2,000 checks before, man. They got done in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's crazy, man. Like crazy. So if you don't get those offsets in there, and for example, I'm gonna give you one example, and I don't want to get too much in damage control, but one example was like deck drains on a DDG. It's 400 or 500 deck drains.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Right? So if you don't get those offsets right, 400 or 500 deck drains gonna pump at the same time.
Yep.
And you got to take them all out, lubricate them and all this. Man, that's crazy amount of man hours on that. So yeah, man, the beginning was a struggle, but we ended up getting it right though, but it was a struggle.
I mean,
it took me a little while just to, in this little era we were talking about here. So I was up there for, I think, a total of 8.5 months. And I even said to the whole chain of command, and I even promised you, Damon, that I was going to fix that before I left or turned over to another person, which I not only found it to be the right thing to do, but I kind of felt, well, I didn't kind of feel. I felt 100% responsible for that happening. And even though there were some, things that weren't really in my control, I still took full responsibility for it. But I fixed everything. And before I turned over to who is now a GSMC, he was a GSM1 when I turned over to him, I made sure that my hands were washed clean of the entire 483 PMS alert thing. So we got it all the way down to, if I'm not mistaken, it was 8 PMS alerts. And those were due to like broken doors, broken dogs on doors, CO2 bottles, like charging handle got broken off. So it was stuff that it was like legitimate jobs were put in for, and they were legitimate check notes. It wasn't just, we couldn't do it because we didn't have time. It wasn't anything like that at that point. So it was comfortable enough for not only you, but for me to finally turn over that position to the oncoming first class, who was then the new LPO.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things that I respect about you, EN1, is that you always, like, based off of my experience, when it was something that you knew you could own, you always did own it. Like, you always took ownership over that shit. Even if it was other people to blame, like, you took ownership over whatever your part. I remember, like, one of our duty days where I forgot, like, everything that happened, but I think, like nobody woke up in the morning or some shit. Like, it's engineering, so we used to, like, everybody, how engineering duck out of the duty section shit.
Oh yeah, no muster in the morning.
So these back in my back in my. Remember, I was saying on one of the other episodes, these back in my, like, when I get up to turnover, RS1 going off, like, like RS1 just barking at, like, the lonely engineer there, and I got to be like, hey, what's going on? That I hear, like, my engineers ain't, So, but I remember EN1. I think we had a plan because something happened. We was getting ready for something. And I remember seeing EN1 even, slept in, I think. And I'm like, when I saw EN1, I'm like, man, ain't nobody show up. Boom. So we got everybody together. I was kind of pissed. And I'm like, remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I'm like, yo, let's just write everybody up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I remember
like
that.
Everybody get a counseling shit, right? And I told EN1, I'm like, yo, EN1, write a counseling shit for everybody. And I felt like what he did was dope because he was like, yo, this is on me first. He was like, this on me first. He was like, and I'm owning it first. And I'm the first person that's going to sign the counseling shit. Because it was like, it's giving them away like candy. Like, it's a stack of them. Like, yo, line up. You go sign it. He was like, yo, I'm the first person. Like, I'm going to sign mine first. And then, because we had to give everybody else, a counseling shit. So, I mean, I always respected that, man. Always. You remember
well,
that?
I appreciate it. Oh yeah, I remember that.
That shit was funny, man. The other thing that I talked about it on our podcast too, but now we could put face to name. The other thing that's always gonna burn in my memory was, I want to say we found out that we was having kids around the same time. I want to say we both found out that, we were pregnant around the same time. And we started talking a lot, like, because I think we were on the same watch team. For the majority of everything, we was on the same watch team, which I want to salute that watch team, because that's part of the reason why we made this podcast, right? And you might be the second person from that family of, that watch team that we actually, sat down with. But so we were talking about different things, plans for the kids, shit like that. Then one day I remember walking in the log room and you was like, yo, Chief, this why it was some shit you were saying about babies, right? You was like, see, this the shit I gotta deal with or something. and you looked at me and I looked at you and you just kind of knew, you was like, and I was like, yeah, it ain't happening. You know what I'm saying? And you was like, yeah, okay, my bad. And the one thing that I started to like about our watch team was we really did develop like this quiet understanding of, all right, today is not the day to fuck with the person,
Right.
We had talked, it's a watch team. So we talk shit, we, whatever. But you knew when it was for real, like, oh shit, it's for real, and that's
for sure.
Yeah. And that's like one of the things I do like when you build that bond in the Navy, where it's like, I fuck with this person every day, but I know today ain't the day, and I knew that you knew that day. And it's been days that we knew. I mean, you got your EN1 got his traditions, you know what I mean? So he gonna come in the CCS, he gonna fuck with the chair. You know what I'm saying? Like remember that? Remember that, David? Like he gonna come in the CCS. You was on our watch team too, right? For some time, right?
Me? Yeah, I was on that
for a minute.
So he gonna adjust that pack chair. He gonna fight with it, for a couple minutes. Boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
And then we gonna get what we get, right? The normal watch day. But every now and then it's a day that it's like, oh shit, okay, all right, I'm gonna leave him alone.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do this today. And some of those days I knew it was some of those days when you was trying to do the personnel swap, the 1-for-1 swap or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
I tell you what, man, like in our days of standing watch down there, man, like I had some of the best times, man, because the reason why is like a lot of it come from EN1, man, because I am this guy that like, you're not going to kill my mood, And EN1 always used to try. EN1 used to try. EN1 used to come in there. He used to have attitude. But when I see him come in the door, and he say, he got an attitude about anything, man, I'm perked up then. I'm like ready to go because I'm finna get out and mess with EN1 every day. Like when he be like upset about something, I think he upset. I think somebody done tweaked his nerves or whatever the case may be, man. It just makes my day, man, because I know we about to have some good conversation right now.
Yeah.
At the end of the time I say some stuff out loud a couple times, he may not respond. But once he responds, he unloads, man.
Oh, yeah. It's like, damn, like all that was bottled up. Like,
yeah, man. We used to have some freaking good ass conversations in that, man. It was no doubt some good shit, man.
Yeah, we be in that
a lot of time.
I was gonna say we be in that bitch laughing. We be in that bitch laughing, joking.
Yeah.
Here come EN1, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mad about something.
Kill this movie, man. Yeah,
hey, so check this out. Like, it's a common misconception for everybody to think that I'm like mad all the time, right? I'm usually not mad. Mm-hmm. If I'm legitimately mad, I'm not talking.
Yeah.
Like when I get mad, I'm not talking. That's all there is to it. So if I'm talking, I'm working through the frustration. And I'm usually just really, really passionate about everything in the Navy, the aspect of my job, how good I do my job, how well I treat my sailors. I'm super passionate about that stuff. So I come across very harsh, very coarse when I, act like I'm mad.
So when I say the word mad, I'm more talking about frustrated. Yeah, because when you say frustrated, that's what I mean, because of the fact that I think a lot of times you get frustrated because how they do things.
Oh,
you know what I mean? They can do things a certain way and you be like, man, why the fuck they do it like that? You know what I mean? It's so much, the way people, do things. So you be thinking about that stuff all the time. Like, man, why we do it like that? Why we do this? Why we do that? So that to me is good conversations, man. Yeah. Because I always thought in the Navy that it was always a reason, you know what I mean, or why people do things a certain way. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I had this thing on one ship, man. That this DC2 was doing this P100, man. She was doing a deep suction on the P100, and she hooked the fire main through the bottom of the eductor. And she was telling me that, she said, you guys always told me, if we can find a better way to do this, do it that way.
Yeah.
And I said, and I was like, but you're not. You're not doing it a better way. Because first off, the PMS code tells you to do it a certain way. And you being in second class, you got all these young people doing it the wrong way, for one, right? And then I told her the reason why we doing this so you can prime the P100. How you going to prime the P100 sending the fire main through the eductor? You got to send it through the pump to prime it. So I'm trying to let her make sense of this stuff. And then once it start making sense, then she start understanding. You mean, oh, okay, I get it. But the crazy part about it is, though, she is now frustrated because she thought she was doing it a certain way. But a lot of times, no one sit down and have these conversations, explain people to why, things are done a certain way. A lot of times, things are done a certain way is because you're either doing it wrong just to be doing it wrong, blood, somebody done died, or from you didn't fuck some equipment up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? One or the other. That's the reason why a lot of things is done like that. And I love conversations like that. Like, people be frustrated because a lot of times, though, EN1, your way could be better. But if you never say anything, who gonna ever know? You know what I mean? Like, you would never know. That's why we was having great conversations, man, because you never know, right?
Yeah, we used to kick it, man. We used to kick it. And I think we understood that, too. We understood it wasn't rage and anger.
Right.
It was more frustration. We understood that. I could tell because I remember when... we might as well, right? I remember when we was running the drill, man, and you and Redacted almost got into like... no, we had just got finished doing drills for quals. And EN1 and... You was in there too, David. EN1 and Redacted damn near got into a fight.
Who?
And EN1 just looked calm. Like,
oh, you're talking about Ramos.
Well, I said redacted because I was redacting his name.
Oh, you were saying redacted. I thought you were saying
redacted. Yeah, so I was
not
saying his name. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do remember that.
You was in there, right? You remember you was in there.
I was in there.
He was in there. But there was a lot of people in there.
Not a bad story on anybody's part, so I had no reason not to say his name. But they got into it. But I remember because redacted Ramos, now at this fucking point, right? But he was pissed, and the EN1 was just calm, so I was like, oh shit. And the EN1 was like, yo, you talking like, I was like, EN1 said that. He's like, you talking like you want to do something,
Yeah, I said
Ramos was like, it's like he had to assess, like, hold on, I'm assessing how you talking, like you talking like you want to do something, And then Ramos was like, yeah, motherfucker, and I think at some point we, everybody kind of intervened or whatever, but I was like, that it was funny because how calm he stayed or whatever like that. That was funny. It was so many of those situations, man. It's funny because Ramos was in a lot. Ramos was in a lot of those situations. A lot of those situations. The GSMs,
he was another one, boy.
The GSMs was some gangsters, man. The GSMs was some gang. Ramos actually hit me up. I was in Rhode Island, and I put out a picture from SCA. He was like, damn, you was in Rhode Island? I was like, yeah. He was like, how come you ain't hit me up? I'm like, yo, I ain't know you was in Rhode Island. He was like, yeah, I ain't know you was in Rhode Island. I'm like, yeah, well, that's why I ain't hit you up, man. But shout out to him. But them GSMs, man, MP division, period. I don't know, they was almost like violent, bro.
Hey, man, let me tell you about MP that I cannot discredit. Right? Damn near every one of those guys that was there from the jump made chief, man.
They all
E5. If they was E5 and above,
they all did.
They had a farm system.
I think maybe except one. Huh?
Well, the one dude made officer.
All of them.
They had a farm system,
Who made
bro.
Officer?
No.
One more.
The first one. The first one.
The older guy.
Yeah, the first LPO, the one that was from Africa. Yeah.
No, not him.
Oh, but he's probably gonna make it too soon. He probably gonna make it too.
Yeah.
But like I'm telling you, they had a farm system. Like the moment one of them make it or two of them make it, because it'd be like two at the same time. The next two,
right after each
slot
other,
right
man.
up,
Right
right
after
into
each
the
other.
farm system. Like
there was a GSM that made Chief every year. I was on that shit
every year. Yeah. No lie, no BS, man. I was like, damn, boy.
Yeah, they had a good thing. All right, let's get into a couple like just random questions that I really want to hear from EN1. What do you think is the Navy's biggest problems, man? Three issues that you think that the Navy has that we could areas that we need to improve in. The Navy in general.
Okay. I've been asked this question by many of junior sailors, many of older sailors, and even my superiors, right? And the first thing that always comes to mind for me is, unfortunately, this be the truth across the entire Navy, all the fleets across the world, that we train not how we fight, but we train to a curriculum for an inspection. We don't train to fight wars. We train to a training criteria. And unfortunately, I think that the Navy, and especially in this day and age, 2022, man, this ain't 1940 with battleships. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have, well, I'm not going to say that, but we have weaponry now that is way more technologically advanced than it ever has been ever in the history of any Navy, right? So I think we need to actually adjust in the Navy how we train, because we're not training to fight wars. We're not training to save the ship in 150 different scenarios. No, we cookie cutter train to a what's the word I'm looking for here? A cookie cutter. Essentially, you are cookie cuttering how we train to a DC drill, a triple T drill, a combat systems training team drill. It's all the same across the Navy. And if you look at one ship compared to another ship, they train the exact same way and the exact same drill. And unfortunately, that is just a recipe for disaster. That is going to get the Navy in some trouble in the future. I don't think it'll be while I'm still in the Navy. But let's say, for instance, 20, 30 years from now, there is a situation that comes up where maritime warfare may be imminent. If we're still training the way that we're training now, I guarantee that America is not going to strategically act correctly to that response or as a response. It's going to be cookie cutter. Hey, we trained like this on this certain scenario, so let's do this exact thing. Well, that's probably not going to be the answer 9 times out of 10. So that's the first one. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, I think the Navy's making strides to pay more attention to the mental stability of their sailors. Mm-hmm. But I think that it's more the Navy is focused on itself as an organization rather than focusing on each sailor as individuals. And I even, brought this up before. That's why I find it very, very important that as a leader, we must understand that these sailors are people. They are people like you and I. They have everyday problems. They have families, and a lot of them have kids. So when something comes up like, hey, like my kid is sick, I got to take my kid to the hospital, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes that sailor is stuck in a position where they're not allowed to go for whatever reason their chain of command gives them. And that sailor is, at that point, they're destroyed morally. They're completely crushed. Their morale gets put down into the dirt. It's just hard to watch. It's happened to me too. But I think the Navy, again, is making strides to make that better and, be more forthcoming to addressing situations like that when sailors have issues or personal problems. But I still think we have a long way to go because, like I said, the Navy, we train to a cookie cutter model. And if someone just so happens to be in part of a drill or something, that they can't be lost. They can't take a day off or take half a day off to go take care of their personal stuff when that's not the answer, or at least should not be the answer. Because when your family or a relative or hell, even yourself are having something that you need to be addressed by a medical professional in some way, shape, or form or capacity, it needs to be addressed. And I mean, let's just look at what's going on right now in the medical community with the fallout of COVID. I tried to get a dermatology appointment back in the end of May, middle to end of May. And they told me there was absolutely no available appointments to any dermatologist at UCSD or SDSU or even outside doctors that take TRICARE until August.
Mhm.
I had to wait 5 months to get an appointment. That's nuts. And just hearing that, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of other sailors out there that are going through similar situations. And the Navy is even now farming out some of these appointments to civilian sector guys. And even them, they are getting overran too. So, I mean, hey, we need to treat people better. That's a number 2 for me. And number 3, and I think it's only a close number 3 due to how near and dear to my heart it is. I'm not saying this happens a lot, but there's a lot of stuff in the Navy that we probably don't want to address too directly, but false flags and false accusations. And what I mean by that is there are sailors out there that, will make a claim to either a semio complaint or even other complaints in different areas, right? And they are not true. Simple. I'm not saying that they all are. I'm saying that my situation, what happened to me years and years ago, I was faced with a false accusation. And hell, I was under investigation by NCIS for 11 months. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. I didn't know if I was going to go sit in prison for something that I didn't do, or if I was going to be constantly berated and questioned and interrogated by NCIS agents and whatnot. I had no idea what to expect. And I had no idea what was going on because nobody would tell me what was going on because of the nature of the claim and the nature of the, situation at hand. But I think stuff like that, it needs to go away. And as long as we have people that are conniving, people that are maybe narcissistic or, just simply evil, because there are people out there like that. As long as we have those people that are coming into the Navy, that is never going to stop. But I do find that extremely important because I've actually seen a guy this was my second ship. He was a BM2 and his wife was a very abusive drunk. And I don't mean like she would just yell at him, throw things and stuff like that. No, like this dude ended up getting arrested one night for a domestic violence charge against his wife, allegedly. But when he was arrested, his arm was broken. Both of his eyes were black and blue. His nose was broken. He had a busted tooth, part of his fourth tooth right here, chipped out. Like this dude was beaten the hell up by his wife. And he still ended up going to jail. Makes no sense to me. But anyway, I fast forward to what happened to him in the Navy. So he ended up going UA. And it was because he spent time in jail.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't help that. He couldn't do anything about that. But the Navy still prosecuted him for being UA.
Yeah.
That to me is bullshit. It's complete, utter bullshit. That guy had the literal shit kicked out of him by his wife. Spent 2, 3, however many nights in jail. And then gets out, comes to the command, and they're like, hey, sorry, buddy, you were UA. You're going on restriction. We're taking your money, half month's pay times 2, so on and so forth.
Yes.
What the hell? That's trash. I don't care who you are. That's trash.
It's like standards for standards' sake. Like
exactly.
I'm reading a book about the coal right now, and after all of the sailors did what they did to like recover the ship and make sure that they could put the ship on tugs and get it away from there. Like after 2 weeks of like emergency response to a devastating situation that killed 17 of their shipmates, it was a conversation about if these sailors could have convalescent leave or not. Like it was like, yo, can these sailors have convalescent leave? And then it was like, the first answer was like, no, they can't because of black and white instruction, this instruction, that. Then they had to find a workaround to make sure that these sailors could have convalescent leave. That part, and then another part that what you just said made me think about was after all of that, happens, the cold happens, right? We're going to talk a lot about it, I think, next week, right? But a lot of fight or flight, and it's like, yo, somebody, they told a captain eventually, like, yo, this has to get investigated. right? Every action that was taken during the emergency response has to be investigated, you know? And I can't imagine, having being in a fight or flight mentality and somebody being like, yo, you didn't dress those wounds correctly during, day 2 of, addressing casualties, or y'all didn't do this right, or y'all failed to use the proper, comms, when this or that was happening. It's like, yo, like we just went through a real life, scenario. And now we talk about standards for standards sake or whatever like that. And certain things do require, I'm not saying that throw away every standard, but like for that seller, like, yo, you got to consider that why he was UA and what happened, and all of that shit. Just like the code, like, it's like, yo, we have to consider that some people, started to just take we train to a lot of this shit, but some of these things might happen. Like people started to take human, stuff. However, though, the military investigators, they didn't read these sellers that rights. Like, they like they like, yeah, we just doing this because we have to. Like, we not about to fucking. They wound up getting in trouble for that later, but it's like, yo, we not really about to try to hold y'all to the fire. We knew y'all was in a survival, mentality or whatever. It's funny. It's interesting. I'm reading about, the code right now, getting ready for another episode, man. And it's interesting that the engineering log was the log that they used to like that was the legitimate time of the casualty. The engineering log, that was the legitimate time that they logged the casualty,
Right.
not the log in the pilot house or nowhere like that. It was the engineering log, because they felt like that was it was 11:18. They felt like that was the time or whatever. But it's very interesting. I don't want to call us out this episode because we're gonna talk a lot about the code real soon, in the upcoming episode. But that's what I felt like from what you. Now I got a question though, based off of the first 2 things you said. My question is this: do you think that Big Navy, not even Big Navy, let me take Big Navy out. Do you think that the people that state the standards should probably go different places at ground level and observe how the standards that they state are actually being executed?
Well, yeah, of course, absolutely. But I don't really see that being extremely feasible for policymakers and warfare commanders and stuff like that. It's just not feasible realistically. But I think at the very same time, whatever free time that they do happen to have, or at least a allotted time that they could possibly be given to go see how their instructions / policies are being implemented throughout different ships and commands across the fleets. I do think that they should at least a couple of times in a quarter or a semi-annual part of the year go and observe how these policies and instructions are being carried out, because a lot of them, which may be extremely needed and of course warranted, some of them actually impede progress. Some of them actually are counterproductive. And I do believe that when stuff like that is noticed, when stuff like that is brought up, that it should be addressed at that warfare commander level or a policy maker's level, and should either go away or be amended. One of the two.
Yeah. I asked that because I'm thinking about, like, if I was that very high ranking officer, whoever I was, and I rolled my way up the chain, and I finally got to somewhere, and I'm like, yo, we're going to do drills real scenario. We're going to make drills feel like some actual, situation that we could actually be in. I'd be devastated if I went to a ship to observe drills and they was doing like you said, like they was doing the same cookie cutter bullshit that you say we see. And I'm like, yo, I said that we're going to do drills more realistic. Like, what the hell is going on this ship? Even with the mental health, and I'm like, yo, we want to take a strict focus on mental health. And then I get to the ground level and I'm seeing that, yeah, we said this, we established this, but nobody's really holding up their end of the bargain at the level that they supposed to hold up their end of the bargain. So then it is like, yeah, the Navy's saying something, Big Navy's saying something, but what are we really doing? It's like, damn, 25 hands down underneath me saying it, yo, y'all still got to hold it down. You know what I mean? And that's what I think with the drills. It's like, are the drills, are the standards, and you might be able to answer this, Damon, more than anybody else. are like when you look at the drill standards, like the packages and the grading criteria and shit like that, are they really cookie cutter and shitty, or is it more in the hands of the people that's executing the shit? Are their standards lower? Is the people that's inspecting the shit standards lower? Or is it just a bad thing that we need to, make improvement on? And I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm just kind of thinking about ideas or whatever like that.
Yeah, man. I look at it like this. I think it's maybe a little bit of both, but at the same time, man, like when you have that many REs, to execute, you can't go all in on all of them. You know what I mean? You can't go all in because you'll never get them all done. You can never get them all scheduled. And I'm just talking about how many I have by itself. I have 16 of them, right? To get knocked out. Ain't no way I could do all 16 of those within the time frame. Then you got to think about combat systems, operations department, seamanship, the HMs. You got to think about all these other people that got to run all they stuff too. It won't be realistic us to get them all done, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm a firm believer in what we try to do. And I feel like this is what we try to do. I feel like we try to get the basics out there because we never know what's going to happen. We never know like a Cole hit or a McCain hit or Fitzgerald or any of these ships. We never know the extent of it. So if we can get a lot of the basic, stuff that we can do, hopefully when shit hit the fan, we can go out there and execute. You know what I mean? But we can't it's hard to run a realistic, 7 casualties going on at the same time. That'd be complicated as hell. You know what I mean? To try to execute and the time to execute that. But I mean, I agree. I most definitely agree when it comes to drills and it comes to anything material wise too. The way we say things are sat is probably way easier than it should be.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like you can damn near like freaking mix. If you miss X, Y, and Z, you probably still passing that thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like so I think that criteria can be a little bit better. But I think it's gonna be like that though, EN1. Just what the on how we do business, period, man. You know what I mean? On how to execute all the stuff that we have to execute. You already know, man, like it's from one inspection to another one when you're on a ship.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop at all. People come on board your ship every week for something.
And that's actually the issue that I was trying to address is that you have all of these different inspection criterias. Let's just take it all the way to the beginning here. There's, ready 1, ready 2, ready 3, ready 4, ready 5, ready 6, ready 7. What? But why? Okay, let's break it down. So ready 1, ready 2, they have their own separate things that they're inspecting for. Ready 3, it's, prior to going into a dry dock, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And they're all systematically designed to happen before something happens or happen after something happens. For instance, LOA. Anytime you go through any type of CMAV that puts the ship in an unavailable deployable status, after 90 days, an LOA must be conducted. Unfortunately, that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Why? If the ship can light off and train their own people in their training teams to be able to bring that ship to life, why? And then we have EOC. EOC is literally a mirror image of LOA with a couple of extra things.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And then you have Ready 6 and Ready 7. Basically a standard before an insert. Why? It's the exact same thing.
And I want to
There's all these separate inspection criteria that follow the same thing.
I'm going to tell you why. It's a lot of the same things, but you need to look at the history behind these same things because people are failing them.
Well, that's what I wanted to do.
People was failing inserts so much. So guess what? The Ready 6 is actually the pre-insert. The Ready 7 is what they fail in Ready 6. Right? So, but the thing about it, they are... Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. But it is though. What it is because people are failing this stuff, man.
Right.
They're not doing good on it. So what they doing is they adding shit to it and adding shit to it and adding shit to it, and it's overwhelming, man. You know what I mean? Like I ain't gonna lie to that because we've been on shit. We know what time it is.
You think some of that got to do with why they failing though? Because it's so much shit. Like it's no precedent. So
that's what I was about to say.
when I was at SCA, one of the chiefs brought up, Mick Pond was there. I'm not going to talk about the way he answered it, but in the Q&A segment, this chief was a part of ATG, and she was like, "Hey, as ATG, we're frustrated because if we go to a ship and we say like, hey, they not ready to get underway because like real major shit, like they don't have the people in the spots that they need. You know, you need certain people on a ship. Yeah. They don't have these critical, billets. And it's like, all right, but the skipper of the ship or whoever it was, the Desron, the strike group commander, whatever it was, signed off. This ship getting underway anyway. Even though ATG went, and I know you could probably, talk to this more, Damon, because you over there. Even though ATG went to the ship and was like, yo, they not cut out for it, it's like, all right, fuck that. We gonna sign something and they still gonna get underway. So I mean, does that take away from the importance and that coupled with the amount of inspections and stuff we do, does that take away from like the element of like, yo, it's game time, let's really get prepared and do this?
So let me address one thing first. A lot of times when we doing when you say a ship, somebody sign off on something, right? A lot of times what they do is they go get it from another ship. If you gotta say, let's say you got a QM, you can't get on the way without a QM. Yeah, normally what they do is they sign off on it because they go get another one from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they do have it to get on the way, it just may not be theirs. With the training piece though, man, what I tell you about the training piece is a lot of those trainings are leading up to a finished product. So it seems like a lot, but it's kind of like a building block.
Yeah, it's like to the piece, end type. It's shit. Like portion by portion, the slow walk portion by portion.
Yeah, that's what it is. But at the same time, though, this is what gets me, man. I'm gonna tell you what gets me with the training on the ship. And I'm telling you, I'm in this field. I'm doing it all the time. What kills me is, so I'm at TMIT, right? So now you got Iraq coming on, right? Some people got what they call RAT coming on. Then you got all these other identities coming on to help the ship, right? So sometimes people don't understand that the ship is calling these people to help.
Yeah.
This ain't necessarily saying, hey, this is, you got a team coming on board right now.
Yeah, we lost EN1. Yeah, that's all good.
Okay. So what it's saying is the fact that we got the ship is asking for this help from certain identities to come on board and help them prepare for a LOA or EOC or a, in-serve or whatever the case may be. So a lot of times, man, believe it or not, a lot of this time, because the ship don't want to fail.
Yeah.
So they asking for this help. So, I mean, and me and you always talk about this anyway, man. A lot of times what happens is we don't know both sides of this stuff, right? Yeah. We don't know like, okay, is the ship asking why we doing this, why we doing that? Because, the ship may ask for it too.
Yeah, I always been too busy for the rep when they come in. Like when they come to the ship, I always been come like, board? Yeah, it's like I got too much shit going on. I can't sit. I can't sit with you.
And on top of that stuff, man, like I remember Rat coming on board the ship when I was there before, and I remember like telling them like, hey, like I know, I know what you come on board to do, but if you want to look at my admin, go grab it and look at it. But I know what I need to do though. You know what I'm saying? I understand we ain't where we need to be at, but right now, man, I got 1,500 checks to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but on top of that though, I was asked from my chain, do we need help?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I told them, I said, no, I said, we don't need no help. But they sent one guy anyway, you know what I mean? Just to check and see what's up. And I remember talking to him. He was like, yeah, man, you good. And then that was kind of like the end of it. But, I did get asked though. So that was good. But yeah, man.
Man. Hey, so that was a technical difficulty. I can't blame Damon this time though. You know what I'm saying? I got to put the onus on EN1. We talked about how he always take the onus anyway. So I'm sure he'll take this one as well.
Yeah, might as well. I'll take that one.
Yeah. Hey, don't get it twisted though. That's normally Dumbo's internet though. Don't let him get that. Don't let him get away with that word.
It's just hot tech. It's got so much stuff going on over here, man. So every now and then the internet don't work the way I want it to. But hey, this was a good conversation. I feel like this was the start of a good conversation. I already know sitting like me, Damon, and EN1 been together talking for 4 to 6 hours. at times because we in CCS supposed to be on watch, right? So, but we've been talking for for hours, watching the plant chain, but we've been talking for hours. But so this was a good one. But I want to go back to one thing before I finish up, and I want to say that me leaving the ship was emotional. I think we talked about it on the podcast. For me, I think it had a lot to do with the time in my life that everything happened. I lost, one of the best people in my life when I got to the ship, which was my grandma. And when I left the ship, and I had lost my other grandma right before that, but when I got to the ship, like soon as I got there, I lost my grandma. And leaving the ship, me and my wife lost a baby. And everything that we experienced, throughout that time on the ship. And the unlikely bond, that I was able to build with engineers, even outside of my division, and sailors, even outside of my division, not just engineers, put me in this weird position where some sailors I didn't even want to kind of like have that last conversation with, right? So there was a couple of sailors I knew I had to talk to, right? Like my divos and stuff like that. But it was a few of y'all that I knew I could fucking avoid, right? FC1 was one of them. I avoided her, and EN1 was another one. I'm not going to talk to this dude before I get out of here. I don't want this dude to see me crying crocodile tears and stuff like that. And that was a respect thing, and I never wanted it. And I felt like I built enough of a rapport with everybody that they would know that, like, damn, I ain't see, Chief. It must have been hard for him. Like, I ain't feel like nobody would be like, I ain't see Chief when he left. Fuck that dude. He never cared. You know what I'm saying? I think it would have been more of the other thing. But you were one of the people that I did not want to see, man. I did not want to see because you was one of the people that I knew I was going to actually miss. You know what I mean? And I knew that would be, I knew that would be hard. You know what I mean? So I definitely want to kind of say that before we do close out. I had great times. On the ship, we had great conversations. Half of the shit we talked about, we cannot talk about in a public forum.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But I learned a lot from our conversations about everything, space, science, people, personalities, how people react to things, shit like that. So I'll be forever indebted, to you,
comedians,
for that shit. Oh yeah, always. We debating about we debated about everything. Like we debated
everything,
hip hop. We debated about comedy. We debated about sports. Like we always had some shit, to debate about. And one day I think we'll recreate that one day, right? We're gonna get GSE1 up here. We're gonna have you up here. We're gonna have everybody that was ever a part of our whole team up here to do that. If we do that, though, we need people. Yeah, we need to also simulate people acting like they signing Mod Z, right? That's one of the things. That's one of the things we gotta have. Like people acting like they checked for Mod Z and they cited it because we used to check the hell out of them, But hey, like I said, EN1, I appreciate you. And it was hard to say bye, so I'm glad I didn't have to. I'm glad we still get to kind of have these kind of conversations, and I don't think this is the last one we'll have. So thanks for from me to you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, man. Hey, same with me though, EN1. Hey, man, like I want to tell you, man, like you always held your own when we had conversations, man. You always held your own. You always like we talked about earlier, man. You know something about freaking everything. Yeah. I'm not even bullshitting when I say that. You know something about everything, and most of the time it's like right on spot. So, hey, man, like I said, good luck to you in the future, man. I know we're gonna have another conversation like this. You most definitely was one of those guys on the ship, man, that we was always talking about, regardless of the situation, we was always talking about you. And then most of the time it was good stuff, man. One of the hardest working guys I ever been, part of on board a ship. So I want to make sure that's known, man. One of the hardest working guys, man. But yeah, until next time, man, for sure.
All right. Well, I thank you guys both very much for having me on. Hopefully this won't be the last time. Just like you said, Damo, this was a really good start of a really good conversation. And I'm sure that we could, go light years on hours and hours down that rabbit hole all over again during, different conversations about different topics. And I just really, I've been waiting to get on this podcast for a long time. I've never been on a podcast. This is my first time. So thank you guys for that. But other than that, I find it very important, the bonds that we create with other people inside of the Navy. Because to be quite honest, man, like I would have got out a long time ago if it wasn't for the camaraderie and the genuine love that you find within other people that, you know, either have like or dislike types of mentalities that we do. And sometimes it's better to disagree than it is to agree. And sometimes the very opposite is true as well. But no matter the case, it's the relationships and the bonds that we build in the Navy that I find most important, and that's what's kept me in. And hopefully, these 2 EAL letters that I got will put me beside you guys one day in the near future. So,
like I told
I really
you,
hope
like I
to see
told
that
you,
day
call
come.
me. Like I told
Yeah.
you, call me, man. I need to make a visit. If we hear something, let me know. It's different. It's weird for me now because I'm running a season, so I got to find a way to squeeze a visit out. But let me know, man. I'm trying to come through.
Don't worry, I'm coming to see him.
Yeah.
In San Diego, I'm coming
Yeah.
to see you.
Yeah, I'm here in San Diego. Let's do it.
Yeah. And good luck with the
Most
baby
definitely.
too. I don't want to miss that. You know, good luck with the
most
the
definitely,
beautiful
man.
baby.
Yeah,
Baby,
thank
the
you
family,
guys.
the whole nine, man. It's
Congrats
a big
on all
deal,
that.
man.
Congrats
Whole
on all
nine.
that.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, man. All right.